Interview with the Vampire. Adapted for the pre-intermediate level, Part 1. "I see," said the vampire, and slowly he walked across the room to the window. For a long time he stood there, looking out at Divisadero Street. The boy could see the room more clearly now. A round table, some chairs, a mirror. He put his briefcase on the table and waited. "How much tape do you have, young man?" asked the vampire, turning to the boy. "Is there enough for the story of a life?" "Yes, if it's a good life. Sometimes I interview 3 or 4 people a night if I'm lucky. But it should be a good story." "It's a good story," the vampire said. "I would like to tell you the story of my life. I would really like to do that." "Great," said the boy. Quickly, he took out a small tape recorder from his briefcase and checked the batteries. "I really want to hear why you believe this. Why you—" "No," said the vampire. "We can't begin like that. Is your equipment ready?" "Yes," said the boy. "Then sit down. I'll turn on the light." "But I thought that vampires didn't like light," said the boy. Then he stopped. The vampire was watching him. The boy couldn't see his face now, only the dark figure. He wanted to say something again, but he said nothing. And then the vampire walked to the table and turned on the light. The boy was shocked. "Dear God," he whispered, looking at the vampire. The vampire was all white, like a marble statue, but his eyes were bright and green. The vampire smiled sadly and asked, "Do you see?" The boy's eyes moved slowly over the fine black coat he'd seen in the bar, the black silk tie, and the white shirt that was as white as the vampire's body. He stared at the vampire's black hair. "Now, do you still want the interview?" the vampire asked. The boy's mouth was open. He nodded and said, "Yes." The vampire sat down opposite him and said gently, "Don't be afraid. Just start the tape recorder. Believe me, I won't hurt you. I want this chance. It's more important to me than you can understand now." The boy was nervous, but he pressed the button and started the interview. "You weren't always a vampire, were you?" he began. "No," answered the vampire. "I was 25 when I became a vampire, and the year was 1791. The boy was shocked by the date, and then he asked, "How did it happen?" "There's a simple answer to that question, and I don't want to give simple answers," said the vampire. "I want to tell the real story. I have only told this story to one other person, and that was long ago." "Yes, of course," the boy said quickly. "We were living in Louisiana then. We'd had 2 plantations on the Mississippi River near New Orleans." "Oh, that's the accent," the boy said. For a moment, the vampire looked at him. "I have an accent?" he asked, and began to laugh. "I noticed it in the bar when I met you," explained the boy. "It is all right," the vampire said. "I forget about it from time to time, but let me go on." "Please," said the boy. "I was talking about the plantations. Our life there was luxurious and simple, but we loved it," the vampire smiled. "Yes, we all loved it. All except my brother Paul. I don't think that he ever complained, but I knew how he felt. My father was dead then, and I was head of the family, and I had to protect him from my mother and sister. They wanted to take him to New Orleans for parties, but he hated these things. He loved prayers and books about saints. Finally, I built him a little oratory where he spent most of the days. It was strange, really. He was so different from us, so different from everyone, and I was so ordinary. There was nothing special about me." The vampire smiled again. "Sometimes in the evening, I went out to him and told him about my troubles, the difficulties I had with the slaves or the weather, all the problems we had. He listened, making only some comments. But when I left him, I had the feeling that he had solved everything for me. I thought that I would do anything to help him become a priest when the time came. Of course, I was wrong." The vampire stopped. For a moment, the boy only looked at him as if he could not find the right words. "Didn't he want to be a priest?" he finally asked. The vampire studied the young man for a while. Then he said, "I meant that was wrong about myself, about my helping him." He began to see visions. "Real visions?" the boy asked. I didn't think so, the vampire answered. It happened when he was 15. He was very handsome then, and his large blue eyes were like an ocean. When he began to see visions, he stopped eating his meals. He lived in the oratory. At any time, could find him there, standing before the altar. He stopped taking care of the candles, or the altar cloths, or the fallen leaves in the oratory. One night, I stood watching him for 1 hour, during which he didn't move from his place. All the slaves thought that he was mad. Then he told me about the visions. Both St. Dominic and the Virgin Mary had come to see him in the oratory. They had told him to sell all our property in Louisiana, everything we had, and use the money to do God's work. My brother was going to be a great religious leader. Of course, he didn't have his own money, so he wanted me to sell the plantations and our houses in New Orleans and give the money to him. Again, the vampire stopped. And, the boy whispered, did you sell the plantations? No, said the vampire. I laughed at him, and he became mad at me. Then one evening he came to my room to talk to me. He said that his ideas came from the Virgin Mary herself. Who was I to say no? But the more he insisted, the more I laughed. It was nonsense. I told him the product of his imagination. The oratory was a mistake, I said to him. He should go to school in New Orleans and get it all out of his head. I don't remember all that I said, but I remember feeling angry and disappointed. I did not believe him at all.